Well, this is the Mountain Valley Pipeline Corridor, and you can see in the distance a big circle. One's black, one's white. The white one's got a cap over the end of the pipe, but you can see the pipe there, and that land is Mark Givens. That is sandstone colluvium that is described, and I have photos of that down there. The property is divided by a creek, and you can see how wide Mark Givens's corridor is. That little bridge and those gates are part of the crossing of a creek. Then when we come back up this side of the hill, this is sandstone colluvium over karstic rock, and this is what was not blasted. These are limestone pinnacles that they cleared off. We have, if you see a burlap sack, a white burlap sack, they had gravel in them. The Mountain Valley Pipeline bored down several places. They filled these sacks with gravel, and then the sacks were put over the holes to dampen the blast. Several of the blast holes I've measured are between 11 and 13 feet deep. Then they would put the sacks with gravel on top of the hole, and these red cones inverted into the hole. They hold a lot of mosquitoes, great little mosquito breeding places. Then this is what they did blast. They stopped blasting here when we reported we believed that they had blasted the roof off of a cave. And we have a cave just not far, just over that little ridge. These are the rocks that they pushed off to the side. Some of the rocks are only 6 feet across. Some of the rocks are 13 feet across. In Mountain Valley Pipeline's blasting plan, they told us they would be doing 6-inch blasts at a time. I live 4 miles away, down that way, and I could feel it. Here's the most recent sinkhole. That's number 10. These are subsidence depressions, they want to call them, over the broken rock. But as you may be able to tell, all these sinkholes are in a row. And here's some more big rock. When we reported that we thought they had blasted a cave, this corridor, which was less than 20 feet wide, suddenly became 40 feet wide, and all the rocks that we said were cave roof and cave walls were shoved off to the side, turned upside down, so the flow stone didn't show as much. And then they scraped a little more soil off and buried them so we couldn't make any more declarations. This is the first sinkhole that developed. This is the top of the blasted cave. Getting closer to it is a little scary. This started out the size of my foot. and just continues to grow. And you can, well, you can't, but I can see that the hole is, there's another hole in the bottom of that just keeps going deeper and deeper. This is sandstone colluvium. Well, at the very top is some fill material they pushed on this top of this ridge. And then sandstone colluvium is the lighter gray, and then the red is carbo, which is a shrink swell clay in our area that grows right off of the limestone. You see the limestone pinnacle there, right holding up my shovel. And I got to the bottom of the pit. Well, that's as far as I went, because there's a rounded rock there, part of a limestone pinnacle or continuous limestone. So here are some more of these rocks. You can see they're quite large, and even my camera doesn't do the justice at this great distance. These rocks are huge, and you can see the stripe there. That's a blast hole, drill hole for the blasting. All of this is limestone. It has a very strong effervescence, high calcium limestone. You really don't even have to scratch it. It just fizzes with a application of 10% hydrochloric acid. Here is just an example of some dried out clay here. Again, I mentioned this is carbo shrink swell clay. It is mapped that. And Mountain Valley Pipeline tried to acknowledge that there was karst here. Several springs in the area, several sinkholes in the area. More big rocks down there. On up here, this corridor that used to be about 20 feet wide before we said, hey, you're blowing up a cave, is now about 40 feet wide. And we'll get to the end of the rocks here in just a minute. And at the end of the rocks, that's pretty much this property's line. You can see the rock pinnacles are interspaced with some soil. Not all these little subsidence areas are big, but they are growing. And the blasting occurred in July of 2018. And you can see there's no real grass to speak of, nor has there ever been for 2 years. That's against the erosion control standards. You're supposed to have at least 70% coverage, ground cover. For your information, in case you ever wonder, this little bit of straw on the ground is just fine by DEQ. Here's the one of them. We thought it was the most recent cave that opened up, subsidence area. It was a surprise to the landowner to come up here and see this. Rather frightening to stand too close. So this is pretty much the property line and the area marked as karst. Although we're talking about the Sinking Creek Valley, it's named Sinking Creek for a reason. It's all karst. But where we have the limestone and the sandstone colluvium meet, that's changing chemistry. And so it's the most vulnerable to sinkholes and cave formation. The other thing we have happening in some parts of Sinking Creek Valley, which is the large rocks from the mountaintop, basically large sandstone flagstones skied down the hillside. to a certain place and then became stopped. And so whatever came down afterwards, the colluvium that slid down behind those large sandstone flags, backed up, spit over the top of those big rocks, and landed here in several different episodes, right on top of the limestone rock. We don't really have a date for it, but we know a lot of stuff happened during the last Pleistocene. A lot of stuff happened on the other side of the mountain. Anyway, that's just some of what we've got here. It's a beautiful day in paradise. Thank you for listening.